It's Saturday evening, and it's time to talk about the very best comic books in the entire world this week. And here with us, as always, is Drew. We broke some big news on the aficionados, and we'll be talking about it a little bit more here at the end of the video. Congratulations.
Thank you, Wes. Yeah, it's one of the worst things about being a creative is just keeping a secret of projects you're working on, not being able to talk about them. But finally, the first of a dozen I can officially talk about. It's a great feeling.
Very nice. And this was a very big week for indie books. We got Flash Gordon #1, TMNT #1, Nemesis Rogues Gallery #1, and a bunch of other ongoing indie books that we've all really liked so far. And we certainly got a lot of them to recommend. But we do need to talk about TMNT, which I'm not going to recommend because it's a really weird comic book. The first thing we do have to acknowledge is whether you like the story or not, there's no denying that the art from Joelle Jones is absolutely spectacular.
I will agree. Joelle Jones, her art in this is really good. I wouldn't say it's her best work, but it's still really damn good. And it surprised me that she can draw turtles very well. And yeah, I want to see more of this. And I hope we get to see more of her great artwork in subsequent issues. Because yeah, if you're not drawn in by the story, I mean, hopefully the art will draw you in.
Yeah, it's too bad. This is, to my knowledge, the only issue that she's going to illustrate. All the other issues concentrating on a character have a different artist on them. Not really sure who's going to be the ongoing. I don't expect it to be Joelle Jones, but we got to get that one out of the way first. Really, really good art. It has a really nice feel to it. The action's kinetic, and it looks really good. The story, on the other hand, this is supposed to be a relaunch or reboot, moving away from the Sophie Campbell issues 101 to kind of 150 that kind of brought down the series and killed the sales or whatever. Really odd choice, just picking up where Sophie Campbell left off.
Yes, it was. Because reading this, I'm glad, because when we talked about this beforehand, before we even discussed the comic, I finished reading it yesterday, and I just said to myself, this is just weird. This whole issue is just odd. And I'm glad you said the same thing afterwards, because we hadn't talked about it. I'm like, yeah, he agrees with me. It's just an odd comic. Yeah, because tonally, how it starts off, narratively, it felt like reading Tango and Cash, but minus the humor and charm of Tango and Cash. Because you got Raphael in prison, but he's still wearing his mask, but I don't know what prison will still allow you to wear a mask. But then again, he's a turtle in a prison with other humans, so whatever. Yeah, prisoners who are able to escape, but he stops them. And we don't really know why he's in the prison. Hopefully there's a better explanation for that. But it sounds like he may be in there on his own volition, or something happened. Something he did something he may be blamed for, or maybe something he actually did. But we'll see. There's questions here. There's a lot of questions in this book. And I hope we get a lot of answers to them. I hope we get good answers to these questions.
The way I took it is that the warden of the prison had something on Raphael that he was using against him, making him be into the prison and basically spying on the other inmates. And obviously he did stop the escape of the other prisoners and stuff like that. But I'm sitting there going, he's a freaking ninja. Like, why is he still there? And then by the end, I don't want to do too many spoilers, but there's no way not to spoil this one. He escapes the prison after he's framed for murdering the warden who he didn't like and was screwing him over. But now that the warden's dead, he's free to go, or he feels like he's free to use his ninja skills to escape the prison. I was like, why did we even do this if he was so easily able to leave? I guess it's just to set him up for the murder of the warden. Why wasn't he in solitary? Why was he in General Pop at that point? He murdered the warden.
Bullseye. I mean, it's just, like I said, that's what makes this comic odd. This decision to go down this path with Raphael in the prison. And it's just, if you think critically, wink, wink, hint, hint, about the setup, it doesn't make sense. And I wouldn't have done this. I wouldn't have gone down this path, but whatever. By the end of the series, he's fighting ninjas in the prison. It's like, wait, what are we doing here? But whatever. I guess we're not supposed to think about it that much, or just go with it. Is that what Jason Aaron's expecting? We're just going to go with it? I don't know. Because if you stop to think about it, it doesn't make sense.
Not a lot about it does make sense, but it is a very kind of depressing take on TMNT. We saw that with TMNT Alpha and what's going on with Donatello, which obviously we'll revisit soon. So I don't know what to expect from TMNT moving forward from Jason Aaron, but I know it's weird, and we'll see what happens. It's not terrible, but it's not really good either. It's just somewhere in between. Now let's get to the good stuff, because we do have a lot of awesome comic books to talk about. First up, Nemesis Rogues Gallery, Mark Millar, with Valerio Giordano The artist on this one, obviously, it's not just a sequel to Nemesis Reloaded, but it's also a direct sequel to Big Game from Mark Miller, his big Miller World crossover event. Nemesis was essentially paralyzed at the end of that story. That's where you start out here, and there's not a lot that he can do with his body. And I think the artist, Valerio, does an amazing job with the eyes, just catching how psychotic he is. He's going to need to break out of this hospital and whatnot. And the way that it goes down is so brutal and violent and visceral. It's really amazing stuff and really great start for Mark Miller.
Absolutely. And yeah, I will compliment the artist as well. I'm glad you said something about the eyes, because I was just going to say that. The positioning of the panels, the angles, how we get the faces, the eyes, he really does. I'm going to piggyback off. He's showing a great job of conveying the insanity and the madness of the character, as well as the character with the shadows under the eyes is perfect. It's terrific. And it does a great job encapsulating the emotions. Yeah, it picks up right off where Big Game left off. And boy, Mark does not waste any time in this issue. It gets right to it. I mean, if this were a Marvel comic by Kelly and Lansing or Jim McKay, the whole issue would have been him in bed, whining, drinking food through a straw, and being lectured to by someone with a head-shaved haircut. But yeah, this is action-packed. It's bloody. It's shocking. It's graphic. It's funny. It's got a dark sense of humor, just like what Mark has with most of his books. And this is just the book that the comic book industry needs. Strong recommend for Nemesis Rogues Gallery #1. It's a very, very fun read.
Absolutely. We got a new age of Middle World kicking off, not only under Dark Horse, but continuing out a Big Game. And this was a way to start that was really awesome and impactful. And we've got more Prodigy coming down the pike. We've got Jupiter's Legacy, I think, coming to an end as well. Awesome stuff going all around there. We had another debut that was very strong. Flash Gordon #1, Jeremy Adams writing, Will Conrad on art. It almost feels like when you pick this book up that you're missing a Zero issue or something that sets up why Flash Gordon has been imprisoned. It's certainly because they call him the World Destroyer and whatever happened to Mongo. But he does need to break himself out of there. The art by Will Conrad is particularly perfect for this story. I love the uniform costume that Flash Gordon is wearing by the end of it. It's really good stuff. If you like Flash Gordon and you like the serials and maybe even like the movie from the 80s and whatnot, you're going to know who Dale Arden is and who Ming is and all that stuff. If you don't completely know who Flash Gordon is, you might be a little bit lost, but I think even for the novice fan, this is a really good start.
It absolutely is. And yeah, you bring up a great point. When you jump right into this, there's going to be a lot of questions. You're going to feel like you are missing something. But if you read the free Comic Book Day edition of Flash Gordon, this gets into what happened with Flash and what he did. So it explains why he's imprisoned to a degree, why he's called the World Breaker, World Destroyer. And yeah, this issue is very shocking with how good it was. I mean, I've read Flash Gordon comics in the past, and look, most of them have sucked. I'm going to be honest. They're very boring, very safe, exposition heavy. But this, wow, Jeremy Adams makes Flash Gordon exciting and fun and makes him a badass. What's interesting, Wes, is that I don't know if you picked up on it, but at least 3 comics this week we're going to be talking about deal with heroes who are imprisoned. And that's the setup for this. I mean, Flash is imprisoned, being tortured, being barely kept alive. What did he do? What's going to happen to him? You got to read to find out. It's beautifully illustrated by Will Conrad. He kills it, and it's well written by Jeremy Adams. Clearly, he gets Flash Gordon. He respects the character. He loves it, and he made it exciting and fun. Strong recommend for Flash Gordon. This will surprise you with how good it is.
I will definitely be on the Flash Gordon train for the foreseeable future. Really was impressed by the art by Will Conrad and Jeremy Adams, as always. Next up, we have Rook Exodus #4, Jeff Johns, Jason Fabok. We're finally getting a really big confrontation in this particular issue. We get characters squaring off against each other. Rook is fighting the new Swine. We've got Direwolf taking on the Python Lady. And it's really, really exciting stuff. And the art is just so perfect. And wouldn't you know, you know what? I don't want to give it away. I almost gave a spoiler there. I'm not going to give the spoilers away, but we do get some really big conflicts. I'm big time on board with this one. And I think every issue, I'm kind of digging Direwolf a little bit more. This is definitely in my top 3 best comic books of 2024 so far, with Transformers and probably Conan the Barbarian.
Yeah, it's steadily climbing up there. And honestly, I'm going to say this probably for this week at least, this has my vote for the best illustrated comic of the week. Jason Fabok killed it with the interiors in this. The creatures, the humans, the backgrounds, the action, the horror. It's all so damn beautifully illustrated. It's fantastic. like you said, so people have dinged me in the comments for spoiling the books. I'm doing the best I can. I'm trying not to, like you, Wes. It's hard to talk about books like this without spoiling it because they're amazing. I mean, like you said, we get a huge showdown with our lead characters, and it may not go too well for them. There's a certain female antagonist in this that I truly love. I love her setup. And Jeff Johns, Jason Fabok are killing it with this series. I strongly recommend this. Recommend everyone pick this up. It's fantastic. The art, the narrative, the pacing, it's terrific. It's just what comic books need today.
Definitely, if you haven't got on the Rook Exodus bandwagon and really the Ghost Machine bandwagon, I don't think there's a reason to wait anymore. We've gotten 4 issues of all 3 series, and they're all top quality things. And we do have Hyde Street coming up with Ivan Reis, which is going to kick so much butt, it's not even funny. Definitely be reading that one. Also recommend Uncanny Valley #4, Tony Fleeks, writing, Dave Walker on art. This has been a really weird, kind of familiar, but certainly new take on cartoons living in like the human world and all that stuff. And we have Pecos Pete. He thinks he's doing right by his grandson, but it turns out he's probably setting up for this big fall. And there's a moment in here that Tony Fleeks puts in there, and certainly Dave Walker plays a big part in it, where something happens, we get a flashback to where the mom, the grandson's mother, is growing up, and her dad's a cartoon. Her mother has died, and he's trying to fix all of her problems like a cartoon would. And he's trying to be the best dad that he can be. She gets acne. Obviously, he can't even really relate to that, but he's trying to help her out, and then she ends up pregnant. And I felt so much for the character, and I understand he's a cartoon, but as a dad myself, I've been in those situations. You know, there's nothing I wouldn't do for my children, and you want to fix everything. But even, you know, my kids being like 3 to 9, sometimes they think that you're living in another world and you don't understand any of their problems, but you still want to fix it. And I definitely felt for the character, and that's really good writing. Compared
to a lot of books today, this series, Uncanny Valley, has probably some of the most heart in it as compared to a lot of the others. Yeah, because let's be honest, a lot of the readers reading these books are people, you know, our age, who are parents. And we can relate to this. We can relate to this book as parents. You know, we're doing everything we can for kids, you know, and we want the best for them. A lot of it just may not go our way. That's part of life. Things do not go the way we have planned, you know, and it just happens. And it's great. It's very emotionally gripping stuff. And a sign of a great creator is being able to tell stories that people can relate to. And Tony Fleeks has done a great job here with this series, Uncanny Valley.
I'm told I can't relate to a character unless they look and act and have the exact same nationality and sexuality and all that stuff as me. But I'm feeling right now related to a character that's a cartoon because it's good writing. That's the key. Next up, Conan the Barbarian, #13, Jim Zub writing, Doug Braithwaite on art. We have Doug back on art, so that means Roberto De La Torre is off for the next story arc. Now we have Conan alone, wanting to get away from civilization. There are some flashbacks to being raised by his father in the village and their beliefs in Crom and all that stuff, which I don't think are particularly enlightening, but there's some amazing scenes where he fights like a pack of wolves that have killed somebody, and then he goes out and he wants to kill a bear because he wants to kind of prove himself, but he won't like shoot it from afar. He wants to take on the bear face to face. He comes back to his campsite. It appears there are some Viking characters there that are going to cause some problems. And then there's a final really good last page reveal that has me excited for the next issue.
I love this issue. Narratively speaking, for me at least, I would say this is probably, I think, one of my favorites from Jim. And art wise, yeah, sorry. Look, I don't want to take anything away from Doug Braithwaite. He is a really good artist. He's terrific, but he's not Roberto De La Torre. That's why I'm here. I love his art. But regardless, the art is solid with what Jim is putting down narratively. And it's a great look into the past, as well as an introspective look into Conan, what he believes, you know, his faith, his religion, just his people, the Sumerian people's faiths and beliefs. It's terrific. I love it. And what did he struggle with grasping as a child? I thoroughly enjoyed that. And by the end of this, like you said, there's a certain character in this that if you've read the original stories, you may know who she is. And I love it. I can't wait to see what happens next. This would be a perfect comic if Roberto was here on the art, but it's still really damn great. Strongest recommends for Conan. If you're not reading this, fix yourself. This is what comic books are. This is what they should be.
Absolutely. You should definitely be reading Conan the Barbarian. We've also got a big event with the Blackstone and all that stuff coming up. Final indie book recommendation, because we said it's a big indie week. Feral #5, Tony Fleeks on writing duty. Trish Forstner on art. Once again, playing off like the Disney style animated stuff, combining it with horror aspects, this being more like a zombie apocalypse. I haven't loved this as much as I've loved Stray Dogs, which I thought was really, really strong. But this, to me, is probably the best issue of Feral thus far. It really grips you in there. They strike up the stakes, have you buy in. They end up in this barn with just a bunch of bats. It's absolutely disgusting. The humans might be even more dangerous to these cats than even the virus and all that stuff. I believe it's rabies. And you definitely buy into it by the end, and you're feeling for the animals. So they've done a job well done. And I'm definitely back on Feral.
I'm friends with Trish Forstner, the artist and co-creator of the series, and I told her, like you, Wes, this is probably my favorite, if not at least the second favorite issue of the series. She and Tony Fleeks do a fantastic job of keeping you on the edge of your seat with the suspense and horror and getting us, the reader, to care for these characters. I mean, look, anyone who knows me knows I hate cats. They're evil. But they've gotten me to care for these cats, and I hope they survive. But look, I mean, it looks like one of them may not make it out of this issue, and another, well, if you know zombie stories, you know they may not be staying dead for too long. This is the strongest recommendations for Feral. If you're not reading this, fix yourself. I mean, they are Tony Fleeks and Trish are two of the best storytellers right now, especially Tony. Tony's got a lot of books out there right now, and I really feel like he's a superstar of the future that no one's really talking about. Do check this out, guys. Tony
Fleeks is definitely an ascending talent, being noticed more. We're seeing much more on these lists as of late, and he's getting some more breaks, which is definitely due to the quality work that he's done. That will do it for any books. We only got one book for Marvel and DC. That's how bad it was at the big two. It's like they didn't even try, but thankfully Marvel did have Wolverine Bloodhunt #4, Tom Waltz writing, Juan Jose Reap on art. This is the finale of the only series in Bloodhunt that I don't want to say that it mattered, but that was actually worth reading. And quite frankly, I don't think it really has anything to do with Bloodhunt. It's just a fun, cool vampire story, almost building off the stuff that Ben Percy was doing like 4 years ago that he dropped for no reason whatsoever. And we finally get the culmination where we've got Alyssa, we've got Maverick, and now that she's finally got her hands on Wolverine, she's got no need for Maverick. And we get a really good confrontation. It seems like a couple characters are going to die. Maybe that doesn't happen, but then we also get Louise is on like a little side quest going around the corner to help finish this off with Wolverine. And she's just a really cool character. It sucks that she's going to be put back in the box, and we likely won't see her for another 5 years. But she's somebody, a character that I think people would get behind if they tried to feature her more.
Yeah, if they did, I actually enjoyed her here, which is very shocking because, I mean, it's a Wolverine book, but Tom Waltz, he did a good job of incorporating her into the Wolverine book. And yeah, I'd be very interested in reading more about her. And once again, in this miniseries, Juan Jose Reap kills it on the art. Granted, is it his best stuff from like 20 years ago? No. But is it still really damn good? Absolutely. It'd be great if I got to work with him in the future. But anyway, the story wraps up here. And Wolverine, does Wolverine save the day? Will he survive? Will he stay a vampire? You got to read to find out. It gets kind of bogged down by exposition around the middle to the latter half of the comic, but it's not too bad. Juan Jose Reap art saves it. This is a recommend. It's a very fun read and arguably the best of the big two this week and the best from Bloodhunt.
It's the only book from Marvel or DC that would get my stamp of approval. Shame on you, DC Comics. You delivered Absolute Power Origins. You should feel embarrassed. You delivered Task Force 7. You should feel embarrassed. You didn't try this week, and you should be shunned for another 6 days until hopefully you actually deliver something worth reading next time. So that will do it for our best of the week. And on the aficionados, we were talking with our good friend Josh. You dropped some bombshells in there. You and Josh are working together on a comic book project?
That is correct, Wes. We are announcing today for the first time Headshot, which is published by Ivan, owner of Big IV Comics, art by William Pompeu, and edited by the great, the legendary, the talented Josh McDonald. We have our 6-page preview edition coming out at Terrificon and Chicago Fan Expo in August. I'll be at Chicago Fan Expo, and Ivan will be at Terrificon. You do not want to miss out on this. And I personally guarantee you will not see what happens coming in the preview issue. It will be shocking, horrific, bloody, and sexy. You guys do not want to miss out on this. According to William, our artist, it is the next 100 bullets. So if you haven't followed Big IV Comics or myself on Instagram or whatnot for exclusives and updates, do so now. You do not want to miss out.
Definitely want to say thank you very much to Drew for joining us and talking about all these awesome comic books. And congratulations to Drew and Josh. Nice to see some guys in the family getting some more work out there, getting their names out there. And I definitely want to let you know that there's more of this kind of stuff out there. In fact, we talk about all the new comic books, Marvel, DC, and Indie, whether they're good, bad, or somewhere in the middle. Not here on YouTube, but over there on Thinking Critical Patreon. If you appreciate what we're doing on YouTube and you want to support our mission, you go there, you support us there, and you get awesome podcasts like the Hot or Not Comic Book Rundown with Jim from Weird Science. If you haven't checked that out, there's a link in the video description. I do hope to see you there soon.